Chapter 1. Anika jumped away from the ragtag group standing around the makeshift bonfire. She didn't like fire or smoke or naked flames of any kind. Even steam and heat made her antsy. Her therapist still said she'd made considerable progress. She could stand in a kitchen and tolerate the stove. A remarkable feat indeed. She crossed the small road, her kitten heels striking the street with a cadence she knew was too forceful. Breathe, she told herself. It was an early January morning. The air blew crisp and the sun sent slanting shadows across the town square. She had a peculiar feeling as she turned east, as if something was going to happen. Something bad. Inside the office, she'd been kept waiting for 40 minutes in a plastic chair instead of the couch. The secretary remained adamant that she not return to her desk. That queasy feeling in Anika's gut intensified. Waves churned in her stomach. It reminded her of that old hymn her mother used to sing. It is well within my soul. However, all was not well. She knew when she stepped into her boss's office. His face was pinched and his eyes wouldn't meet hers as he stared at his papers pretending to read. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, Anika, but we're letting you go. Today will be your last working day. The queasiness rolled up her throat like a storm, but she swallowed it back down. I don't understand. I've been your best performer. I landed 20 different accounts in the last 6 months. I won Best Employee of the Year award, for goodness sake. Why? Her boss, a pudgy man with a far-receding hairline, sank further into his chair. Anika, you brought in small contracts. Their worth would not cover what I pay you for a year. Advertising is a cutthroat business. Anika swallowed the lump in her throat. She needed this job. It was the only thing keeping her sane. She fished for a tissue in her purse, jingling numerous keys, unpaid bills and lists, yanking the strap before she finally found an old crumpled one, which had been there who knows how long. I'm so sorry, darling, but this is an organisation with character, and let's face it, time and time again you've missed the jackpot. He pinched his fingers together. You were so close, Anika. I told you, Dan was stealing my ad plans. You know my laptop was hacked. He stretched out and laid a tissue box in front of her, and she wanted to fling it in his bloody face. I'm sorry, Anika. Anika blazed out of the office. She dry-heaved on the pavement as people sidestepped her, but no one bothered to ask if she was okay. Turning west to the bank, she felt that queasiness wrestle inside her. Too bad. Things were about to get worse. What do you mean I was fined? You forked out my entire salary. Her voice sounded shrill at the bank counter. Her bob was messy, every hair follicle on the rest of her person on end. People craned their necks, peering around corners to put a face to that voice, a high voice that was getting angrier by the minute. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you were supposed to maintain a minimum balance. Her eyes popped out of their sockets when she saw the cheque placed in her trembling hands. Think on your feet, she told herself. This was a zero balance account when I opened it. Miss Bassein, that condition was changed a month ago. New rules have come into effect from the ministry. We had to comply. There has to be something you can do. You've taken my whole salary. Come on, I've worked long hours, weekends without a break, 30 days this month. Miss, please, you've got to help me. It was pathetic even to her own ears. Her tears didn't move the bank lady or the crowd. I'm sorry, miss. You can file a complaint with the manager, but he's on leave for 2 weeks. I doubt anything will be processed without his permission. She looked at the statement of accounts shoved into her hands as the lady proceeded to the next customer who pushed her aside. Her last salary, her only salvation from financial ruin, had now been wiped clean by the government. Jobless and penniless. What would she do? Anika keyed her ignition and drove to Somerset Fountain, where the children played and stared at the arrows of water shooting across. The breeze licked her chocolate brown hair as she sat on a forlorn bench overlooking the fountain. The telltale smell of incoming rain tickled her nose, A street man played the most sorrowful rendition of Pachelbel's canon. It made her want to die. Sighing, she pulled out a checklist from her Zara bag and ran a finger down all the things she had written. She looked up at the water spouting and closed her eyes. How am I going to pay for all this? 8 weeks' rent, bills, internet bills, grocer, milkman. The list went on. Money to the hospice, gas for the car, all scrawled in a rushed, loopy script etched into the crumpled yellow post-it. She wanted to scream at someone, to throw a punch, maul and tear someone's eyes out, preferably her boss. The phone rang and she welcomed the call. "Dora, I'm in a soup. Can you believe what just happened?" she moaned. "Yeah, good morning to you too, Anika. You do know I don't just want to listen to your drivel in the morning, right? This was just a good morning call." Anika pressed the phone to her ears. "But you have—" "Anika, darling, your broker called up. He says he's got something important to discuss and hasn't been able to reach you." That brought a smile to her face. She had completely forgotten about the funds she'd invested. Gone was her need to pour out her litany of problems to Dora, her confidant. Anika grinned. "I hope he has some good news. Look, I'll call you back, Dora. Is it okay if I have dinner with you? I'm a little low on cash." "Come over in the evening. We'll talk about it then. Now call that broker of yours." Charles Kilbrooke sat in his den, feeling the trim on his beard. High beams and Neil pillars flanked him. A few floor lamps lit the room. He sipped his aged Glenlivet, a vintage one, the one that set him back £20,000, the one he'd bought for his wedding, the wedding that never happened. He didn't care about the money, though. He had plenty. Letting the warmth worm its way down his throat, he let the dram settle. Today was the day. The inauguration of his plan to find the arsonist that took the only person he ever loved away from him. Nothing would stop him now. The plans had been laid and the advertisement printed. By the end of the week, he'd find his prey. He emptied the rest of the liquor and walked to the window to see the pier nudging the water's edge. The water looked lonely, the pier empty, and the house so silent it deafened him. Now, all that remained was the clawing hunger for revenge.